If you hadn't guessed from watching my intro, you know that I'm an EverQuest fan. What can I say? I love that game for its rich story and lore. The reason I bring this up is really to let you all know that I'm not a fan of the franchise of this next movie that it's based on. However, I understand this franchise's popularity and its huge fan base. With that being said, I promise to you all that I'm going to give this film a fair, non-biased rating. But I'm going to tell you right now, EverQuest would have been a much better MMO to make a movie out of. It's got all the right classic tropes of a fantasy tale. Elves, dragons, gnomes, trolls, dwarves, lizard people, frog people. I mean, come on. The list goes on. The history of Norath in all its ages, plus the wars that are littered in them, make a better movie-going experience, in my opinion. The level of epicness in these stories are just like about as high as Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I mean, come on, seriously. This would have been just screaming to make a movie out of. I mean, what is wrong with Hollywood? I mean, if you really wanted to adapt it a video game or particularly
this is going to take a little bit. This is really interesting.
Right here.
Moon blows up and causes all sorts of havoc across the world below, starting a whole new story, which is EverQuest 2. So much lore and history. Wow. Wait, what was I doing again?
You were doing the review, boss.
Oh, right. Hi, Faceless here, and while I'm not a fan of this gaming franchise, I do respect it and at some points was looking forward to this film. Warcraft. With no real spoilers, the plot goes like this. The film starts by showing us the home world of the orcs, and as you can see right off the bat that the world is pretty much a wasteland. We're introduced to Doratan, our main orc protagonist. At the get-go, you get the sense that he's not a mindless barbarian. If anything, you get a sense of honor within him. Leading this army of green beasts is an orc warlock named Gul'dan. He creates a portal using the souls of his prisoners and leads a large army of orcs into the world of Azeroth. From there, the invasion begins with the pillaging and razing of villages across the land. While the invasion's going on, word gets back to the kingdom of Stormwind, and the king sends a garrison out to fight the rampaging invaders. It's here where we're introduced to Sir Adwin, played by Travis Fimmel. And what can I say about this guy? He's the standard knight that puts his life in the line for king and country. After a couple of introductions of a young mage and an uber-godlike sorcerer, the garrison catches up with the orcs and they have their first battle of the movie. After the orcs pretty much get their asses handed to them, they realize that the humans are not a group to be taken lightly. At the same time, Doratan questions whether his people are doing the right thing and begins to think that they might be better off living alongside of the humans rather than fight them. Gul'dan thinks otherwise and pushes his forces to continue to capture and slaughter the humans and their allies. This causes a conflict with Doratan and he ultimately decides to take his clan of orcs and try to make an alliance with the King of Stormwind. Meanwhile, we're shown that there's a bigger threat to both the orcs and the humans in the horizon, which undoubtedly feeds into another plotline of this story. There really isn't anything more I can say about this film without spoiling it. However, they did leave this movie open for future sequels. So, what did I think? Generally speaking, I thought this movie was okay. As I mentioned before, I was looking forward to this film, not because I'm a fan of World of Warcraft, which I'm not. It's more because this movie was adapted from a video game and I was hoping it does well because in the past, they really don't have a good track record. As far as how it translated to the film, it was adequate. I didn't hate the film, but it's not without its problems. I don't know much of the lore in which this movie was based on, but I got the sense that they took bits and pieces and pasted it together to make some kind of comprehensible story. The amount of talking and expedition eases non-fans into this world and it's a bit wordy and slow. I've spoken with a few faithful fans of the franchise and the plethora of complaints I've gotten almost made me regret even asking in the first place. The general consensus I gather is that they love the visual effects and love seeing the world of Azeroth brought to life in the big screen. However, when the oohs and ahs from the fans did wear off, there were some inconsistencies that they picked out and let me tell you, they were more nitpicky as hell than I was. As for the rest of the non-fans, again, the film was just okay. The visual effects were magnificent and the CGI was rendered brilliantly. I knew the orcs were computer generated, but goddamn, they look good. At one point I thought they were real or some form of practical effects. The pacing of the film was slow. Explain, fight, explain some more, then fight, and explain again. The plot had a number of things going on from war, inner conflict, conspiracy, and yes, a bit of a love story, which in my honest opinion, they could have done without. I would have been fine if they kept the half-orc and the knight as a mutual relationship like brothers at arms. Or brother and sister at arms. Though I really like what they presented as the motivation for the orcs. One example is having a childbirth at the first steps of the invasion, along with Durotan's internal conflict throughout the whole film. It made it seem like that there was more at stake here, and not just conquering a new land, but survival of their own race. And to be fair, I did play a little bit of World of Warcraft, so I am somewhat familiar, but not all the way through. Which, by the way, for those of you that are Horde, that's right, screw you guys. Having that little bit of understanding of the lore of what goes on in Warcraft, it made the film a little bit enjoyable for me. I did have my little gripes, but overall, I was okay with the film. So, my final rating is a C-. It didn't make me want to buy the Blu-ray as soon as it comes out. However, I am interested in seeing how the sequel plays out. But, until then, this is Faceless, signing off.
Right here. Let's go.
Oh, and one more time for you guys in the Horde. Double that, right there, yeah. I mean, seriously, all I was doing was just harvesting and some asshole comes flying down and just kills me right off the bat. I mean, seriously, bastards.
Peanut butter disaster.